Weird site. The person who wrote this didn't mention the year, but from the story's flow, it seemed like it was sometime between the early and mid-2000s. This guy was browsing the internet one day when he came across a very disturbing site. He couldn't remember the exact address, but as far as he could recall, it was something like how to become a serial killer. At first, he thought it was a joke, but when he entered the site, his face froze. Imagine the chef from Disney cartoons looking at a paper and being horrified. Something like that. The content was far from the joke he expected. It didn't even seem like a horror story or a dark humor site. The pages were actually prepared like a guide for someone, and the texts were very detailed. For example, in some sections, there were tips about how to incapacitate a victim. In other sections, it explained how to choose targets randomly without attracting attention. While browsing the site, one thought came to mind. Is there anyone who actually takes this seriously? A few days later, he wanted to show it to a friend. But when they visited the site again, everything had changed. The site was completely removed, and only a single message remained. The How to Become a Serial Killer website has been removed. If you are really interested in killing someone, why don't you start with yourself? That was it. No explanation, no name, no trace of the person behind it. Nothing about the site was ever found again. Maybe it was a dark joke, but it was far too detailed and deliberate to be just a joke. I feel fantastic. This is actually a solved mystery, but since it was also a childhood trauma for me, I added it, and honestly, it still surprises me. In the early and mid-2000s, a strange video circulated on the internet. A mannequin-faced robot sang in a very creepy way, in a mechanical voice. Most people know this video already, but I'll explain it anyway. The robot in the video was called Tara. Watching the video already gives you chills because it has a really creepy vibe. It's like analog horror before analog horror existed. What makes the video scary is actually the robot itself. Even though there's nothing directly scary, it still manages to be unsettling. Because the internet back then had limited information flow, as the video became popular, the stories about it also became creepier. People speculated things like, was it made by a dark web killer? Did a killer put his victims' parts inside the robot? Or did he make the robot resemble his victims? And it just kept going. One of the most talked about theories was that the robot's clothes belonged to a real woman who had been murdered, basically similar to other theories. This theory spread especially because of a short scene in the middle of the video. At one point, the camera suddenly shows a grassy field outside. Some viewers thought it was the place where the killer buried the victim. These claims spread quickly online, and people started analyzing every detail of the video: the robot's facial expressions, the background room, the clothes, everything. As I said, because information flow was limited back then, fake stories became popular instead of the truth. Years later, the truth came out. The person who uploaded the video was John Bergeron, a hobbyist who built robots. The scenes in the video were just recorded to test the robot. The purpose of the robot was to produce human-like movements and sounds. So John Bergeron just made a video for fun with his robot and added music. He probably didn't realize it, but because of the creepy vibe, everyone was freaked out. Fake stories were popular back then anyway. You've probably seen things on Facebook like, send this to 5 people or something bad will happen tomorrow. Webcam story on it was the early 2000s. The internet was calmer back then. These two friends were having what we would now call a nostalgic evening. They were hanging out in a Yahoo RPG chat room, doing roleplay. Yahoo chat rooms, wow, those days. Realizing that we're getting older and that times like that will never come back is honestly kind of sad. The two friends were in the same room. They knew each other in real life. After a while immersed in the roleplay, they were suddenly pulled into another chat. At first, they thought it was normal, but a few seconds later, something happened that kept them away from computers for a long time. The person who pulled them sent a photo. The photo was blurry, but clearly showed a room. It was the room of the friend telling the story. The angle looked like it was taken from above, like the corner of the ceiling. The layout, the bed, the desk, everything was exactly the same. What the hell is going on, they thought. And then the person wrote both of their full names in the chat. At that point, they started thinking it might not be a joke. The weirdest part was that neither of them even had a webcam. So how did this person take the photo? They immediately left the chat, and the friend even unplugged the entire internet connection. In the following days, they searched the room many times, checking walls, shelves, ceiling corners for hidden cameras, but there was nothing. Years later, the most logical explanation was probably that his brother played a joke. But whenever he asked his brother, he said he didn't know anything. Kenny Veach. Kenny lived in Nevada and spent most of his free time hiking deserts and exploring caves. He especially liked exploring mountains, caves, and abandoned areas in the Mojave and Great Basin deserts. He frequently talked about his hikes on online forums. In 2014, he came across an interesting YouTube video. It was about the son of a technician who supposedly worked at Area 51. According to the video, the man's father once got drunk and talked about strange things he saw at Area 51. Kenny commented on the video, describing a very strange experience he had during a hike. He said he found a very unusual cave among rocks near Area 51. The entrance was shaped like the letter M. But the strangest part was not that. As he approached the cave, he felt a vibration spreading through his body. This scared him so much that he didn't dare enter. He immediately returned to his car. The comment quickly gained attention, and some people thought he had discovered something supernatural. They told him to return and record it. This motivated Kenny, and in October 2014, he decided to go back and try to find the cave again. His first attempt failed. He just wandered around. On his second attempt, according to him, a black bighorn sheep stood on a hill and watched him the whole time. The animal didn't take its eyes off him during the hike. Did he find the cave? No. Even after hours of searching, he couldn't find it again. Still, he recorded the hike and uploaded it to YouTube. The video is called M Cave Hike and is still there. No one knew it would be one of his last videos. After that, Kenny said he would go look for the cave again. Some online people were worried. They thought it was too dangerous. But Kenny had already made up his mind. Seeing people not believe him motivated him even more. After that, no one ever heard from Kenny again. Around November 10th, 2014, it's believed he went on his third hike. He took his truck, phone, and hiking gear. Before leaving, he told his girlfriend his plans but didn't share an important detail. No one knew the exact location he was going to. Kenny never returned from that hike. Some people thought it might be related to Area 51. But there's an interesting detail. His girlfriend later wrote in comments that Kenny wasn't in a good mental state and had suicidal tendencies. They had talked about it before, and Kenny once said, "If I ever do something like that, no one will be able to find me." To this day, no trace of Kenny has been found. 4chan killers. One of the weirdest internet platforms, 4chan, had another disturbing case. One day, a strange post appeared on the forum. A user was posting as if he were playing a game. At first, people thought it was a troll, but soon the post became darker. The anonymous user started sharing photos. The photos showed people lying on the ground, and the user claimed they were his victims. At first, most people thought it was fake, but as some users started analyzing the photos, things got worse. Internet detectives checked whether the images were taken from somewhere else. But no, they were being seen for the first time. There were no police markers, so it seemed like the photos were taken at the scene. The story spread quickly. Eventually, users managed to identify one of the victims. That person was actually a real murder victim. Authorities like the FBI were reportedly informed. At that point, the anonymous user left one last message: "I will return and finish the game." After that, the user was never seen again. Weird, right?